everybody. Welcome back to another weekly travel talk. As always, my name is Ali. I am the show host and the marketing coordinator for the Women's Travel Club. And I'm here today to talk to you about our upcoming tour to New Zealand in 2025. This is a 14-night Superior First Class accommodation tour from November 9th to the 23rd of next year. An extensively beautiful list of inclusions to go over, but I'm joined by Raresh today to go give you guys a sneak peek into what to expect, go over the highlights. And Raresh himself has experience in this beautiful land, so we've got some great pictures and stories to talk about. So I'm going to bring him onto the stage and have him say hello.
Hello. Hey, everybody. There you go.
Here we are. How are you?
Hey, Ali. Good to see you again.
I'm excited to have you here. You've prepared a short presentation for us going over some of the highlights that we've put together on this tour. And, you know, you yourself have been there, so I'm excited to kind of get your perspective on what you saw, what you did, and the places on this itinerary that you have gone to yourself. So I think that's really great for our members to be able to hear about.
Yeah, no, and I'm excited for this one. If I can get my my mind wrapped around the fact that I have to present for the next 30 minutes or so, because apparently I can't find my words. Yeah. So yeah, you know what? It's really exciting because I gotta tell you, when I first went to New Zealand last year, I walked into this without really knowing what to expect, and it just basically blew me away. I was so excited when I came back. I kept on telling everybody about New Zealand, and you know, in the grand scheme of things, I think in North America, a lot of people, you know, have Australia on their mind, and they kind of say, well, we're just going to fly for a couple of days extra to Auckland, and I'll check, you know, New Zealand off my list. Do yourselves a favor and take the time to experience this country, because it is absolutely stunning. It is an amazing destination, and it has a bit of everything. So that's what we're going to talk about, and hopefully in the next 20-30 minutes or so, and we're going to entice your your club members to join us on this fabulous trip. And I'm kind of jealous because I don't get to go this time around, but I will tell you all about it, and I'll get you excited to go.
You sound like me after every travel talk. I'm like, oh, well, another one I'm not going to.
I saw your list of places that you're going to next year, so that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. I should not complain if I was you.
If they become guaranteed is the thing. So I've still got some work to do, but yes, very exciting. And I'm hoping to tackle New Zealand at some point. I mean, I find with North Americans, mostly if they're going to gear towards Australia, that's kind of the extent of their flights. And they're like, you know, well, I don't want to do more hours. But as we were saying before this travel talk started, that once you're on a plane for more than like 8 to 10 hours, you just kind of go through the motions, and you get there and you don't even realize how long you had been traveling. You know, you take a day or two to find your footing and relax. And that's why we've created a 2-week itinerary, because you really need that time to explore New Zealand. It's much smaller than Australia, but there's so much to be seen and done. So that's why we've put this together for you guys.
Yeah, and you know what? One of the things that I will tell you from the beginning is, I know a lot of people are scared of that 14-hour flight from Vancouver. You know, similar, I think it's 12 to 13 hours, if I'm not mistaken, from like the LA area, depending on how you're going to fly to Auckland. The one thing that I will tell you is, honestly, I do prefer a 14-hour flight to like a 6-7 hour flight, because it messes you up less. I don't know how to explain this better, but it just messes you up less. Because basically, if you're going to be on a 14-hour flight, in my case, I got on the plane in Vancouver. Keep in mind, I had a 5-hour, flight to Vancouver as well, right? But I got on the plane in Vancouver. I basically, sat in my seat. I had a really nice dinner. I watched a movie. I then slept for about 8 hours. When I woke up, I was basically, almost done. We had like 2 hours to go. So we were basically served a breakfast, watched another movie, and then basically I was there. And so it's nice. The one thing that I will tell you, and I don't know if people realize this, so when you're flying from North America to New Zealand, you're crossing the international date line. So you leave today and you arrive the day after tomorrow. So a lot of people will say, oh my God, I'm actually missing a day. Well, you're actually making up for that day when you're coming back. So back from New Zealand to North America, I landed in Vancouver, Vancouver time before I had actually left from.
Oh,
This makes sense, right? So I
yeah,
kind of traveled
because
back
you
in time. Yeah.
traveled back
So
in
it
time.
is, yeah. So it's very interesting. It does mess you up a bit, but at the same time, again, the flights are very long, and I know there's all sorts of techniques you can read about it online of how to adapt to the new time zones as
Yeah.
quickly as possible and things like that. One other thing that I will mention about airports in general in New Zealand is the fact that they are very small. So one of the things that you will see, the only place that I saw security and I had to go through security was Auckland. I had other airports, especially with internal flights. You just walk on the plane. There is absolutely no security. Nobody's going to check your luggage. Nobody's going to. And it's just amazing to see that in this day and age. It is fantastic, honestly. So, I remember one time we were transferred to the airport about 2 hours before our flight, and I was actually I was on a fam trip, right? So I was with a guy from Air New Zealand, and Mason was like, why the hell are we here 2 hours before? Because we could just walk in the plane like literally 10 minutes before the plane takes off. I was like, I don't know. You should have told me
Used to
beforehand. Yeah,
travel.
I'm used to. Yeah, you got to be there 2 hours ahead of time. That's how they scare you in North America, right? But obviously, there's no security, and so that just makes the whole experience a lot smoother. So obviously, with the international airports, there will be security, but like I said, for the internal flights, which there are some in this itinerary, there is no security, so that just makes life
Yeah,
so much easier.
In a way, it's a peace of mind to know that there's not going to be any horrible like delays or things that could go wrong. It's just you get there, the plane's there, you get on or you get off, and it's just
Exactly,
so
exactly.
airports can be very scary for some people. They are high anxiety. The security are typically not pleasant, but that's their job to not be
Yes.
pleasant. So it does bring a little bit level of stress. So and as we were saying, Rash, before we got onto this chat, that New Zealand itself, culture shocks can also be quite scary for people traveling
That
to
is correct. Yeah.
and such. But you said that New Zealand was not much of a jarring culture shock for you. You were able, like the food, like the atmosphere, things like that, right?
Oh, the food is fantastic. The food is honestly fantastic, and I really never believed that the food was going to be that good. But
Yeah.
and I don't want to sound like an idiot, but realistically speaking, you're going to a country with 5 million people and about 50 million sheep. Okay, so agriculture is a massive part of their of what they do in New Zealand, and especially on the North Island. You'll see a lot of really massive farms, and so the quality of the food that they produce is absolutely fantastic. Again, they're surrounded by water, so the seafood is amazing. You're really not going to go hungry in New Zealand. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, and as a cultural shock, like I said, when I landed in Auckland, it was about 5 o'clock in the morning local time. When I landed in Auckland, it honestly felt like landing in Vancouver. It has that vibe, so it's a very laid back vibe. Auckland is a city of about 1.6 million people. Out of the 5 million people that live in New Zealand altogether, basically a quarter live in the greater Auckland area. So it is the busiest place. But even that was funny because at one point we were traveling from somewhere to somewhere else in Auckland, and our driver was like, hey, this is rush hour in Auckland. And it's like, don't talk to me about this. Is not rush hour. You got to come to Toronto to see rush hour. You got to get on the 401 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'll tell you what the rush hour is. This is nothing.
Don't even talk to me about the Gardner Express.
Exactly, right. No, let's not talk about that. So I mean, it's really, really nice. The only massive difference is obviously they drive on the other side of the road, so you have to be careful when you cross the road. But it will tell you on the sidewalk before you're crossing that you need to look left or look right. So that's actually really, really cool. But overall, just a very laid back feeling, and that's what I really enjoyed about it. But let's talk a bit about New Zealand, or Aotearoa, basically as it's called in Maori. And this is one of the things that I wanted to emphasize from the beginning. It is actually one of the places on Earth that has been inhabited for only about 800 years. So in the grand scheme of things, it is a very new inhabited spot. I don't know how to explain this, but basically people have been around for, thousands and thousands and thousands of years. They only made their way to New Zealand, as far as they can determine, about 800 years ago. So it is a very new or newly inhabited piece of land, right? And again, legend has it that Aotearoa stands for land of the long white cloud, because apparently when the Polynesians were traveling from island to island. Interesting fact, this was something that I learned when I was there. One of the things that's very interesting about the Polynesian peoples was the fact that they did not know, or they did not have any agricultural skills. So what they used to do is they used to go to an island or an archipelago of islands. They used to be hunter-gatherers, and they used to, use the resources of that particular island. And when the resources would, which were obviously finite, when they would kill every animal on the, that they could kill, hunt any animal that they could hunt, use every little, piece of palm tree or whatever they could use, they would move then to a different island. And if you think about it, and this is a perfect example, and I digress a bit, but Easter Island these days is like that, because there's absolutely no vegetation left or no trees left on Easter Island. And they say it is because the Polynesian people, they came in, they used every resource, and then they moved on. So similar situation with New Zealand in a way. Obviously they did not get to that point to use every resource, and then the Europeans came in a few hundred years later. But there's really a couple of really interesting things about New Zealand as a country. First of all, and they laugh about it, nothing can kill you. There's absolutely no species of like crazy crocodiles like in Australia, or massive, snakes or spiders or anything. They have the kiwi bird, which is a flightless bird. That's the only thing that they, basically they say that they left all of the crazy animals to the Australians, to the Aussies, and they kept all of the nice ones. So it's very safe even from that perspective, So nothing can really kill you in the animal kingdom in New Zealand, so to speak. Awesome. 80% of the plants and animals actually found in New Zealand are only found in New Zealand. So that's another very interesting fact. So when you go to New Zealand, you'll see a lot of these really interesting, plants and that are found pretty much everywhere, that are specifically only, how should I say, native to New Zealand. So very, very interesting from that perspective. And you have to realize, obviously, it's a country that has been separated from the nearest piece of land by quite a lot of water, right? So that also means that cross-pollination, so to speak, was not very easily done. But yeah, just these thoughts. And it's a very, like I said, it's a very, very cool country. Obviously when you come in, you're gonna land in Auckland. This is kind of just like the itinerary I put it here. So you're covering both islands, both North and South Island. The other thing that I wanted to mention to you is Australia has some fabulous wines. If there's anybody that likes wines, not Australia, New Zealand has some fabulous wines. Australia does that as well.
I was agreeing with you, because Australia does have
some beautiful wines. New Zealand has some even more beautiful wines, according to them anyway. They're really, really nice. I'm not a massive wine connoisseur, and I don't necessarily drink wine, but they have some really nice, and they're obviously known for their Sauvignon Blanc. The nice part about it is that when you go there, you'll see that whatever Sauvignon Blanc we get in North America is unfortunately, or fortunately, I should say, not the stuff that they drink. So it's actually, they have some really, really nice wineries and some really nice wines, very, very accessible, and very, very good white wines from that perspective. And one last thing before we move into like the itinerary: tipping at a restaurant is really not required. They actually make very decent wages in New Zealand. So one of the things that we were told from the beginning is that tipping is not required. If you really want to reward somebody for going above and beyond, your waiting stuff or at the hotels, somebody, you can obviously do that, but it is not required. The other thing is that the price that you see for anything in New Zealand, whether it's a piece of clothing or food or whatever, it does have all of the taxes. So
Yes.
if you see something costs $5, it's going to be $5. It's not going to be $5 plus tax.
I love when
So
companies
that,
do that.
trust me, it took me a while to, understand the whole system here in Canada, with the whole thing with taxes added on top, but we're not going to talk about it. So yeah, basically what's going to happen is the trip starts in Auckland. It is, like I said, a beautiful, beautiful place right on the water. It's a really, really walkable city, and I love it because, again, you can just take in, the harbor. It is really, really nice. Lots of great restaurants, lots of great bars. If you just want to go for a walk, you can definitely do that. Again, absolutely, absolutely, spectacular place, and very, very safe, which is something that we always have to keep in mind. So it's a very, very safe place. Really, really nice. And then
that picture itself, is very Vancouver, like that. The vibe.
It is. It really is. It really is. Yeah.
Kind of a Seattle, Vancouver mixture vibe with the
with the needle, with the space needle-ish looking thing. I have to tell you, there's something about the obsession with building these towers. Obviously, this is nowhere near the CN Tower in terms of height, but if you want to go up, you can, and then you can have a really nice panoramic view of the city and the harbor and the bridges and everything. So it is really, really nice. It is a really, really nice city. So you know what? You spend a couple of days there, and then just be able to see some of the really, really nice areas around, not only in Auckland, but around Auckland. They have a lot of black sand beaches around Auckland, and the black sand is because of the very high iron content. It's actually interesting, but our guide took a magnet and just dropped it in the sand, and you could see how pieces of iron ore stuck to the magnet. It was really, really interesting. So that's one of the things that they that they will tell you from the beginning, and that's one of the industries. Mining is very popular or very important, I should say, in New Zealand. So moving on from Auckland, where you'll be spending a couple of fantastic days eating some of the best food you've ever had, you're going to this place, which is Hobbiton. Listen, I saw Lord of the Rings when it first came out. I was, like everybody, I did not then follow the whole sort of like Hobbit trilogy and everything. I was even trying to watch it on the plane on the way there, and I wasn't getting into it. So I was like, yeah,
it's slow moving. I get it.
This place is so cool. This place is absolutely fantastic because this place was built for the purpose of the movies, right? So the Shire, it is absolutely amazing the amount of work that has gotten into this place. And you really don't have to be a Lord of the Rings fan. I mean, we had a couple of in our groups that just basically geeked out when we got there, but you don't really have to. It's fun. It is absolutely fun, and it kind of brings out the inner child. It is really, really cool. One thing that's interesting, because this is before CGI, this is before computer animated stuff, this is computer generated stuff, I should say. So this is all had to be recreated basically for the purpose of filming the movies. So the tree that you see above, and this is Frodo Baggins's house. Listen, I still know my Lord of the Rings stuff. Yeah, so this is Frodo Baggins' house, but on top of it, there is this tree, and they will tell you that there's a reason why they picked this particular place, because of the hills and everything, and the setting is absolutely fantastic. But the tree is actually fake. So the tree is a tree that they had to, put together for the purpose of shooting the movies. It has about 250,000 individually painted leaves, and then they had to attach them to the tree. So that is what you see there. It is the amount of work that went into just creating the set for the movies is phenomenal. When I was there last year, I remember they were also building a Hobbit house that you could spend the night in, because at this moment you can sort of get into one or two of these places and kind of like see them, but you can't spend the night. Now you will be able to spend the night. We don't include that because it's obviously the group cannot accommodate the group, so it's going to be like But it's just absolutely cool. And then again, if you cross the bridge and then you go into the pub and you have meal there, and it's actually really, really funny. And they brew their own beer, which is funny because they will brew, I think they have 3 types of beer, if I'm not mistaken. So they will brew their own beer, so you get to taste the beer that they brew there. So it's actually really, really a cool spot. And I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, to be honest. It was one of those like, oh, Hobbiton.
Oh, we're gonna go to Hobbiton.
Like, I was grumpy, right? So then we got there and I was like, hey, this is really, really cool. Yeah. One thing that you do then is you go to Rotorua, which Rotorua is a place that's known for a couple of things. First of all, it has these very interesting sulfur springs, which kind of means that it does smell like rotten eggs every once in a while in the city. I'm not going to lie to you, because of these sulfur springs. But they have obviously a lot of really good health benefits. So, when you go to Rotorua, you go for 2 things. Basically, you go because of the sulfur springs, and you go because there's also a couple of villages where you can experience the Maori culture. And so from what I understand, the group is going to go to Te Patu, which is one of the 2. I did that one, and I absolutely loved it. It's about a 3-hour experience, including a dinner and the show. And you'll get to meet the chief of the Maori tribe, and you kind of walk around the village, and they get you to participate in all sorts of games and dances and things like that. So it's actually a really cool activity. And then at the end, we got to do the haka. I don't know if you're a rugby fan or not, but they teach you. Yeah, I think everybody knows the haka. So that's yeah. That was cool. That was a really cool experience. Again, I'm not gonna get an Oscar for my haka performance, but it was definitely something that was really, really really cool.
That's awesome. Well, I think this day in particular, well, the whole tour, of course, but this in particular is very immersive in the culture of New Zealand, and what makes it so mysterious, unique. Like there's so much history that is not understood fully because of how we grew up here in North America and our culture and way of life. And I just find that even the haka itself, like, it's fascinating because there's so many reasons to every movement and facial expression. And so it's like, I think this is one of those days of the tour where it's like, wow, like I'm really here, like experiencing this firsthand. It's one of those kind of, oh my God moments.
No, you're right. And I honestly, I really enjoyed it, again, a lot more than I thought I was going to. The one thing, and again, I digress, but the one thing that was really interesting is the haka is really a way of a way of expressing their feelings. So for instance, and I thought it was completely fake, to be honest with you. I thought it was completely fake. So we land in Auckland, and there was a moment where at some point we just hear this guy who just starts going into the haka and just makes all of these weird noises, honestly, at the beginning. And then he was waiting for a relative, I gotta say brother, cousin, something like that, who got off the plane, and they basically performed the haka together, and that is their way of greeting themselves, greeting each other. So I thought, again, it was a very interesting moment, because you don't really see, stuff like that happening in airports anywhere else pretty much around the world, right? To see people hugging each other and kissing each other and being happy about and crying and all of that. And they performed a haka, and that was their way of saying hi to each other. And it was really, really, really interesting. And I know the entire group was kind of mesmerized. And I know a couple of the group, they were filming it, and they were like, well, I don't know, are they going to be upset with us? Because this is such a really interesting moment, right? You don't really get to see that anyplace else. And it's one of those, right? Like the Mason, the guy from Air New Zealand, he was always like, hey, you're going to see this, and this is how we do it, and this is what we do, and everything. And you kind of thinking, oh, he's just overselling this, right? Like he's just like, it's not. It is actually genuine, which makes it really interesting. Yeah, it was really fun.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I will tell you something. Wellington to me was such a fabulous surprise because you really don't know, again, you don't know what to expect. So
Right.
Wellington, of obviously being the capital of New Zealand, it is, it doesn't really have the feel of a capital. It
Really?
doesn't. Like, you know what, when you go to Ottawa,
Yeah.
it's the capital. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Like, for whatever reason, I don't know. You go to Ottawa and you're like, yeah, you're in the capital of Canada.
Yeah.
Like you go to Washington, D.C., like, yeah, this is the capital city of the United States.
Yep.
Wellington does not have that because it doesn't necessarily have that type of architecture where you see all of those
Big.
typical ugly government buildings,
Yeah.
So
And
that
executive suite.
may, contributes to the whole thing. If you have the time, and I'm not exactly sure right now how much time you have in Wellington, I do believe there is some free time. There is the New Zealand Museum Te Papa, which is absolutely fantastic.
Mhm.
We spent a couple of hours there, and it is absolutely amazing. The exhibitions that they have about the Maori culture, including some of the vessels and some of the houses, and it's just like it's absolutely amazing. The other thing that they have is they have an exhibition about the World War One, when the Australian and the New Zealand troops fought the Battle of Gallipoli in Turkey, which is kind of like their Vimy in a way. So
Okay.
it's a very defining moment in the history of New Zealand,
Good.
and it is a great, great, great exhibition, and it's a very moving exhibition because you learn about how you know these 17, 18-year-old boys went to war thinking it's going to be just like a vacation, and then it turned out to be completely different. So it is definitely a very, very moving exhibition. So I do advise, if this is not included, I do believe it is, but if it isn't, just make sure that you go, because it is definitely worth a couple of hours. Wellington also has a really cool coffee culture, and so there's really great coffee everywhere. There's coffee shops everywhere. There's a lot of places where you can grab a really, really nice cup of coffee in some funky, places. So it's really, really nice. Great chocolate as well, but just an overall great feel to the city. And I gotta tell you, we were there in June, which is their cold season, I should say, because
Right.
if I called it winter, people will not understand. But obviously, seasons are, you
Yeah.
know, are switched around, right? So we went there in their cold season. Um, Auckland was around 16, 17 Celsius. As we went down to the towards the southern part of the South Island, temperatures got cooler, but it was never colder than, let's say, 3-4 degrees, and it is a very, very comfortable temperature even when it's cold, because they don't have that humidity that we have.
Mhm.
So it's a lot nicer in a way. But I remember it was about 10 degrees outside in Wellington, and people were swimming in the harbor. So
Yeah.
that was one of the things that I saw, and there was not just one crazy one. There were like tons of people, because we got there on a weekend, I believe, and there were tons of people just swimming in the harbor and just enjoying the water. So that's one thing that you will also see. The New Zealanders are a very outdoorsy people. So
Yeah.
they will do a lot of outdoorsy activities. They play a lot of sports. Apparently, they teach sailing
Oh.
in schools.
Oh.
They actually have sailing classes in schools
Wow.
in New Zealand, because they have about 40 million boats apparently in New Zealand. So it's something that they teach there. So there's always that connection with the water. Obviously, when you go to places like this, where you can experience the Te and just kind of like the glowworms and everything that you've seen in all of these documentaries
Yeah.
everywhere, and you see stuff like this is really not computer generated. This is
Yeah.
exactly how it is, and it
Wow.
is absolutely fantastic. So to me, these are just fabulous places and unique experiences, and just really, really wow moments that you
Yeah.
will then remember forever. So
Yeah.
this is just, I love the fact that you've included stuff like that.
Mhm.
Queenstown on the South Island, again, absolutely phenomenal place. This is the birthplace of a couple of really cool things. First of all, this is the birthplace of bungee jumping, just in case you didn't
Oh.
know that. And I'm still trying to understand and figure out, because I never really did it, that I don't think I'm going to try it in my life unless somebody bribes me with a lot of money. But The idea is that this is the birthplace of bungee jumping, and you can still do it. It's about 50, I believe, 50 or 60 New Zealand dollars, and the New Zealand dollar is actually weaker than the Canadian dollar. So there is one place where the Canadian dollar goes a long way, and of course, you have clients from all over the world, so they will really enjoy this. The fact that the New Zealand dollar is not the strongest currency. But yeah, you can still go and bungee jump in the original place where they bungee jumped the first time around. There's a couple of places. I mean, I'm still thinking, what possessed somebody to tie an elastic band and just jump off and say, "Hey, let's see what's gonna happen." Like, did they? I don't know. Did they just like maybe try it with a dummy, like with one of those crash test dummies first to see, or did they just jump first and then there's like, whatever? I don't know.
That's insane. Do you know how long ago? I know you must not, but
it's got to be about 20 something years ago, 30 years ago, maybe. It's not that far. Like, they didn't come up with this in the 1960s. I think it's got to be like the mid 80s to mid to late 80s. I mean, I could probably Google it right now, but it's not that far.
70s, 80s,
Yeah, it's like in the 80s. It's like in the 80s. Yeah.
Vibes. Yeah, I can see some 80s teenagers.
Yeah, you definitely weren't born yet. I can tell you that much.
No,
but yes. Yeah, but yes. But yeah, it's there. And then the other thing that was really interesting is they also invented jet boats, and the jet boats are basically pretty much boats, and they are fitted with a jet engine at the back, and that makes them go very fast, and they can go in very, very shallow water. Like, they can go in about maybe this much water, and I'm not even kidding you. So because they glide on top of it because of the speed. So that's something that you can do, and I highly recommend it because it is a blast. It is an absolute blast, and I do believe there's a few days in Queenstown where you can enjoy that. Queenstown is also kind of like the New Zealand capital of just all sorts of sports, of anything from mountain biking to winter sports like skiing and snowboarding. So anything is done there, but just overall is an absolutely fantastic place. Lake Wakatipu is actually about 80 kilometers long, so it is a very long lake, and it's a beautiful place. There's all sorts of, again, Queenstown has kind of like, I'm trying to figure out what would I compare it to in terms of, I don't know, like, it has that Banff vibe in a way.
I see it with the trees, like the evergreens in the mountains with the
snow. Yeah, and just like everybody going there and skiing and snowboarding, and obviously in the warm season, just during their summer, just kind of enjoying the outdoors in various other ways and just having a great time. And there's a lot of clubs and a lot of parties at night. And there's an amazing burger place, which I forgot the name of it, but I'll find out and I'll shoot you an email with that later. But it is great. So Queenstown, it is definitely something that people will enjoy. And again, what I love about it is the fact that you do have multiple nights in certain places, because you don't want to feel rushed, right? This is Christchurch, and Christchurch again is Christchurch is very interesting, because Christchurch was basically pretty much almost completely destroyed by the earthquake about 10 years ago or so, right? So this is there you can still see places in Christchurch that they haven't really rebuilt, but they also took the time, because of the earthquake, to rebuild the city center of Christchurch. So it is a very interesting, a very vibrant sort of community, very, 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 how should I say this? Very interesting from a cultural perspective as well, because apparently that's where a lot of immigrants, for whatever reason, a lot of immigrants coming from other parts of the world move into, more so than Auckland for whatever reason. 200,000 people, so it's a very manageable size-wise, right? And it's got some really nice beaches. It's got some really great, places. And again, it's very, very, very walkable. And the one thing that I forgot to mention here, and I just realized I didn't put a slide about it, but you will go to Milford Sound, and Milford Sound is actually known, because it is. And I was told there is a difference between a sound and a fjord. Don't exactly know what that is, because I was like, well, this is like a fjord. And they're like, no, it's a sound.
Oh, My
Again,
bad.
my English kind of fails me at this. I was like, the sound is something that comes out of my mouth,
Yeah.
right? And they're like, no, 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 it's actually like a,
It's
it's like a fjord, but it's different. And I can't. I think it's got to be because it is spring fed. If it's spring fed, it's a sound. If it's not, it's a fjord, something or another. Anyway, don't quote me on that one. But the cool thing about it is it's such a beautiful place. You'll have an overnight, I believe, an overnight cruise in the Milford Sound area, so you'll be able to experience it. I mean, from whales to dolphins to waterfalls. The scenery is absolutely out of this world. It is absolutely fantastic. So that is one thing that I'm really, really, excited for all of your clients to go see, because I was wowed by that place. I thought there was just no way it could get any better, and it did. And so it was just amazing. It was just absolutely amazing. And this is kind of like what people think of, in a way, New Zealand. What you'll see here is more so on the North Island. So Auckland is pretty flat, but then as you go to the southern part of North Island, you're actually going to see that it becomes a bit more hilly, and then the South Island is characterized by mountains. So you'll see mountain ranges, and it's absolutely fantastic. The other thing that you'll find funny, going back to the Lord of the Rings, because it's such a small country, and because it was such a big production, and it honestly, in a way, put New Zealand on the map as a destination, because the movies were shot there. You will always meet somebody, whether it's your guide or your driver or the reception, person at the hotel or whatever, who's either been an extra on the movie, is dating somebody who's been an extra on the movie, has a relative who's been an extra on the movie, or knows somebody who's been an extra on the movie. Like, our jet boat driver was basically telling us that his wife was an orc. And he's like, yes, she was orc number 7 in this scene, in this movie. So stuff like that, because they employed so many people and they got so many people to participate. It is really, really funny, because somebody will know somebody who's been in that movie. Obviously not in a major role, but they were somewhere in the background, exactly, getting killed or killing somebody or whatever. Something was happening. So but you know what, it is really cool. I think, like I said, it's a 2-week itinerary, which gives your clients ample time to do this. It is an absolutely fantastic destination. If there's one thing that I can tell you need to bring back, is just some really, really nice Sauvignon Blanc that then you can share with Ali and I, because we are not going to say no to wine. And it's just honestly, to me, it was such a revelation, and it was such a beautiful place. I'm hoping to go back sometimes next year if everything goes according to plan. So I honestly believe that when your clients are going to come back from New Zealand, this is just going to be one of those experiences that they are going to just say, wow, I really did not think that it was going to be so beautiful, so amazing. And it really is
going to be like shockingly fulfilling for us.
Yes, I mean, you obviously, you have a way with words that I don't. So yes, shockingly fulfilling is probably a great way to describe it.
My mother's a poet and an English teacher, so my language comes from her. I got made fun of today for using the word yearning in the casual conversation.
Yearning is interesting. Yearning is an interesting one. Yeah. Well, you know what? In that regard, like, my mom was basically an accountant back in Romania. So there you go. That's where
there's numbers there.
There's numbers there. Not a lot of English vocabulary.
But what I mean is that I think that this itinerary being 2 weeks, and if you go back just to the map slide there where you can see the overview, it's a very spread out, extensive,
that is correct,
itinerary to ensure that you're not left wondering, you're not left feeling that you didn't,
yearning for more. There you go. See what I did there?
Look at you. That's what it is, though. And it's just, I think that if you've ever had even a little inkling or a little voice on your shoulder that says, that might be a cool place. Even if you're not 100% keen, I think it's worth exploring, honest to goodness.
Yes, it definitely is. And like I said, it is such an amazing place and it was such a beautiful surprise that I really believe this is something that everybody needs to experience. If New Zealand was not on your bucket list, it should definitely be. And again, I think this is a perfect opportunity for your club members to go and experience the destination because like I said, and like you put it out, it is a very fulfilling destination and again it's going to be there's really something for everybody. I just love that about it because if you want the hustle and bustle and you love the big cities, then Auckland is there. If you're the outdoorsy type, you can basically do everything and anything in New Zealand. And you got the wines, you got the food, you got you got all of that in there, so it is really 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 nice. And again, also, I think it is very, very affordable from a price standpoint. Just in general, I believe that New Zealand is again a lot more affordable than people think it is. So it is definitely something that I highly, highly, highly recommend. I mean, honestly, the ongoing joke in the office was like, "Did you go to New Zealand?" We never really noticed because all I could talk about was New Zealand, and they wanted me to shut up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely highly recommended.
Well, thank you for coming on today, sharing your experiences. I think that it's especially nice to have the conversation when one of us has been there because it's like we get such a more in-depth perspective on, how we felt. And now, of course, everything is subjective. I can't speak for every member. I can't speak for how I think that you're going to feel. But from my perspective or from how I experienced it, speaking as Naresh right now, and this is what I did, and I truly, feel that you may experience this as well. So I think that is wonderful that you were able to give us that perspective and to go in depth with the some of the highlights of the tour. I think was really beneficial. And if anybody, has any further comments, even if you just want to hear more, not if you want to book, but if you want to talk about it a bit further, have a conversation, definitely reach out. I'm going to just throw up the contact screen here. So yeah, if you call that number below, my extension specifically is 403, and I'll be happy to talk to you about this tour because, as you can tell, I myself am very in love with this itinerary, and Raresh has done a great job at furthering that interest in me. So thank you for that.
No, thank you so much, Ali, for having me. And you know what? It's always wonderful to come and then talk about all of these great destinations and all of the great, plans that we put together for your club members. So yeah, I mean, again, I can't speak enough, so I'm just going to shut up because I could go on forever about New Zealand. So,
and I'm sure this won't be the last time you and I get together. I've got Deborah here saying thank you for the fun presentation. Well, we're very happy you joined us from start to finish, Deborah. It's been a very intriguing presentation, I will say, Raresh.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I practice in the mirror all the time. No, but you know what? Realistically speaking, it's just absolutely it's great. And so thank you so much for the opportunity, Ali. Yes, of course, we will talk about some other wonderful destinations in the future as well, and I look forward to that. And thank you so much for having me today.
Of course, and take care, everybody. I look forward to seeing you guys on next week's Travel Talk. I believe I have your coworker Jen doing Morocco. Next week we're going to be talking about that one.
Oh, that's on my list as well.
Yeah, so you should. I think you were away or something, or you might be tied up next Wednesday. But if you're around, I'd love to have you join us.
You know what? I might just actually. Yes, I gotta look at my calendar.
Yeah, and I'm sure
next Wednesday,
but this presentation together. So all you have to do is show up and have
fun. Exactly. There you go. I might just do that. Thank you so much, Ali.
No problem. Well, take care, everybody, and we'll see you next week.